Boa tarde a todos. Bem-vindos a mais um evento do Lunch Learn, do nosso Comitê Técnico de Flow Assurance, na qual teremos alguns profissionais da área de garantia de escoamento que compõem o nosso comitê técnico aqui. Meu nome é Nicolas, atualmente eu faço parte da diretoria dos comitês técnicos da SP Brasil, na área de comunicação e mídias, e estou coordenando junto com a Maria, o Rafael, os nossos palestrantes Cem Sarica e James, esse webinar. Espero que todos possam curtir o evento e que estejam abertos a perguntas também, né? Temos o chat, as perguntas serão respondidas ao decorrer da apresentação. Algumas informações importantes. Peço que sigam o nosso comitê de Flow Assurance nas redes sociais, no LinkedIn, nossa página de comitês técnicos também. Caso ainda não seja membro afiliado à SP, se afilie. E como os nossos palestrantes são internacionais, esse webinar será totalmente em inglês. Mas qualquer dúvida, podem mandar tanto em inglês quanto em português, que iremos traduzir e enviar aos nossos palestrantes para que todas as dúvidas sejam sanadas. Então, para iniciar esse webinar, vou convidar a Maria, que faz parte do nosso comitê técnico de Flow Assurance, para que ela possa dar continuidade ao evento aqui. Olá, Maria, boa tarde.
Olá, boa tarde a todos. I will speak in English. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the first Lunch and Learn session organized by the SPE Brazil Flow Assurance Technical Committee. Today, the event will be held in English and our speakers will discuss about developing the next generation of flow assurance engineers, everyone responsibility. For those who does not know me, I'm Maria and I'm part of the board of directors of the SPE Brazil Flow Assurance Technical Committee. First, I would like to invite those who are not members of our community yet to become part of it. You may point your cell phone camera on the QR code that is being presented in the screen to join our community. As well, you may also contact us to the email that is being displayed on the screen as well. So our objective is to disseminate knowledge in the flow assurance area. So we do that by promoting lecture, course, event, congress, and other means of scientific and technological communication. Today, I would like to make the first announcement about the third SPE Brazil Flow Assurance Technology Congress, also known as FATC. As many of you may already know, the next edition of the Congress will happen next year, 2026. Today, I would like to announce Professor Marcelo Castro from Unicamp Brazil as our technical chair for the event. On behalf of the SPE Brazil Flow Assurance Technical Committee, I would like to thank you for accepting this invitation. This is our first event of the year. We have planned 6 Lunch and Learn / Flow sessions for this year. Soon, we are gonna announce more details about the second edition of the Lunch and Learn session that will happen next month, where the speakers will discuss about fast decision-making tools for assaulting risk assessment. You are welcome to join our discussion. Pay attention on our social media to get more details about the upcoming event. So now I would like to invite to the stand our chairperson, Professor Rafael Charim. Professor Rafael Charim holds a bachelor's degree, a master's, and a PhD degree in chemical engineering. He has postdoctoral research experience at universities in the United States and France, and with the cooperation of SEMPS Petrobras in Brazil. He is a professor at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro at the Polytechnical School, where he teaches and coordinates the Petroleum Engineer undergraduate program. Rafael Charim is specialized in flow assurance and research topics like phase behavior, surfactants, emulsion dynamics, gas hydrates, and petroleum properties. He is also involved in projects at the LATCA laboratory at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro at School of Chemistry, and he is the technical director of the Flow Assurance SPE Brazil Committee. Welcome to the stand, Professor Rafael.
Thank you, Maria. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for this exciting webinar. As Maria said, my name is Rafael Charim. I'm a professor of flow assurance at UFRJ, our university in Rio, Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro, and I will be the host today. It's a pleasure to be part of the first Lunch and Learn event of our committee, the Brazilian Flow Assurance Technical Committee. And today's section will explore how to develop the next generation of flow assurance engineers. We are thrilled to have two participants with us today, Professor Cem Sarica and Dr. James Holbeach. Let's start introducing Professor Sarica. Dr. Cem Sarica, Floyd M. Stevenson, Distinguished Professor of Petroleum Engineering at the University of Tulsa, is currently serving as the Director of 3 Industry Support Consortia at the University of Tulsa. Fluid flow, paraffin deposition, and horizontal and well artificial lift projects. His research interests are multi-phase flow in pipes, flow assurance, and horizontal wells. He holds bachelor and master degrees from Istanbul Technical University and PhD in petroleum engineering from University of Tulsa. He is recipient of the 2010 SPE International Production and Operations Award. He was recognized as a distinguished member of the SPE in 2012 and received the SPE John Franklin Carl Award from SPE Cedric K. Ferguson certification in 2015. In 2024, Cem was elected as ASME Fellow and received SPE's Distinguished Achievement Award for the Petroleum Engineering Faculty. We welcome Professor Cem Sarica.
All right, good to be here with you all, and I'm going to try to share. And are you able to see my screen? You can see it, right? All right, okay. Thanks for everyone. I think I'm gonna present my views here. It might be controversial, and that is good. At the end of I'd like to have others' opinions on this. But let's get started. All right. Let me see if I can proceed with it. All right. First, I'm going to start with the definition of flow assurance engineering. What is it, and what does flow assurance engineers do? And then what I'm going to try to do, look at what industry wants and desires. Probably James will address that in a better way than I could. And I'm going to then address where do we find flow assurance engineers and how to raise a flow assurance engineer, and look at the challenges and opportunities in that subject matter. Okay, what is a flow assurance engineering? Nowadays, everybody uses Google, right, for almost everything, and I Googled it, and then Google's response was that it is a discipline that ensures the reliable and economical transportation of hydrocarbon fluids from reservoir to the end user. It involves the use of fluid properties and thermohydraulic analysis to prevent the formation and deposition of solids. And flow assurance engineers are responsible for predicting and interpreting fluid characteristics, flow hydraulics, and thermal behaviors, and provides prevention strategies and remediation methods, and guides operation strategies. Considering all of this, flow assurance is arguably the most enabling discipline in our industry. What does industry need and desire? Industry needs flow assurance engineers to design, develop, and operate oil and gas assets, mainly for offshore. Okay, onshore has its own issues with respect to flow assurance. However, offshore dominates. Desires, what the industry desires, have flow assurance engineers fully productive and contributing immediately, and they would like to keep flow assurance engineers as long as needed. Hire and lay off on demand, I call it cycle management. And I'd like to present a cautionary here. Laid off people may not come back to the industry, and flow assurance, we may lose them forever. And from that perspective, on-demand operation of hiring and laying off may not be a good strategy. There are many questions. Considering flow assurance is a specialized discipline, is the mode of operation realistically sustainable? As I said before, we may not have them back. The other question that we always ask, where do we find flow assurance engineers? Can a recent engineering school graduate be productive immediately as a flow assurance engineer? I'm talking about not only petroleum, I'm talking about chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, physicists, chemists. Can we have them productive immediately? The other question that we have, what would it take to make an engineer a flow assurance engineer without having a prior exposure to flow assurance? Those are the questions that we need to be thinking about and trying to find answers when we try to fill the flow assurance engineering ranks. What are the options? Quick solution. If I'm a company man, if I need a flow assurance engineer, what is the quickest solution? I can lure experienced engineers from another entity, another company. They are all experienced. They can hit the ground running because someone else has already paid for the development of that particular engineer. That option is good for the engineer. Probably he will get better compensation and working terms, but it will be a temporary solution for that specific company. It will solve the company's problem, immediate problem. However, it is not good for the whole industry. I mean, we are taking that person from one company and putting him into another, and the other company still needs to find someone else to do the job, right? That may not be a sustainable solution. Longer-term solution, investing in development of flow assurance engineers. I would consider it as part of the cost of doing business. And I call it, since I'm from academia, I call it raising of a flow assurance engineer. How do we raise a flow assurance engineer? Prerequisite is flow assurance engineers need to have already a bachelor's degree in engineering or science. We don't have a degree program, 4-year degree program on flow assurance engineering. At least I'm not aware of it. Then what it means, we need to work with people with an existing engineering or science degrees. That is a requirement, but it is not sufficient. What do we do with those people? We can have two tracks. We can have them and train them on the job, or we can provide them with further education. We call it graduate education, master's or PhD degrees. Let's look at on-the-job training. There are different kinds of on-the-job training. The first one is specialized ad hoc short-term training programs. Companies may identify different courses and send them to those courses and try to get them up to speed in flow assurance quickly. Probably this is the least costly of all. The other one is mentoring by senior subject matter experts. Already flow assurance experts may exist in the company. They may train the newcomers. And the third one is formal in-company training. Many IOCs and NOCs have programs structured to train the new engineers coming in. None of these are free of charge, and the cost of developing an engineer as flow engineer is case and company dependent. If we go to further education, graduate education route, I'm going to provide a US example. Different levels of graduate education, as I said earlier. You can have Master of Engineering without any thesis, Master of Science with thesis, and finally a PhD. The cost of these degree programs, I'm just giving rough numbers. In US, 2 years program for Master of Engineering costs around $130,000. Master of Science is about 160 plus the thesis research cost. When you go to PhD, it costs a lot more. It is around $250,000 and plus the dissertation research cost. Another issue is that not many institutions provide a formal education in flow assurance engineering. And after all of that, let's say you have someone with formal graduate education. Those people may still require in-company training and mentoring. However, that would be significantly less. Oh, this is the biggest question. Who pays for raising flow assurance engineers? Let's look at the options. Individuals, future flow assurance engineers, there's a big question mark there. People in US rarely pays for their graduate education. They can pay their bachelor's degree education, but they will not be paying for their graduate education. Why? Because it is cost prohibitive based on the numbers that I presented to you. If that is out of the question, let's look at the universities. Universities pay for the education, but how do they pay for it? They pay for it through research programs funded by industry or government. And the other option is the companies who have a stake in the flow assurance, they can directly pay for it, and indirectly. Indirect options include supporting university research efforts and supporting graduate students that way, because after supporting research efforts, graduating students will be available for employment. Okay, they are supporting the universities, and universities are producing flow assurance engineers, and then they are hiring them. Current challenges. Apparently, we have shortage of flow assurance engineering. I would venture into guessing why would that be. The root causes in macro scale, especially for US, Europe, and probably in Australia, less interest in oil and gas, negative public perception of our industry, and deliberate push of a narrative that Earth will be inhabitable due to fossil fuel-based climate change. The other one is, this is for youngsters going to schools, future flow assurance engineers, perceived uncertainty of the oil and gas industry. The very basic and legitimate question, am I going to have a job 10 or 15 years later? If we cannot guarantee that they will have jobs or opportunity to have a job, then we are dead in the water. I think we need to change this perception. And the other challenge for us, inconsistent energy policies, and we are experiencing that in US right now. We are going from one end of the pendulum to the other. We need to find a balance. And for companies, availability of capital is very problematic, an issue. It has been in the US for future developments, especially in offshore. The root causes, if I go to a little bit to specifics for academic purposes, from academia perspective, we are experiencing reduced funding of the university research programs from industry and government sources. That directly affects number of flow assurance engineering supply. We cannot produce more engineers if our research funding goes down. Probably this is not the case for Brazil, because Brazil have a different funding structure, but it is true for the rest of the world. Potential solutions, better funding and funding models for university research. I really like the Norway and Brazil models. They are very similar. It may not be perfect. Of course, everything can be improved, but I think it is providing a lot of opportunities to universities, and a lot of students are being trained at the graduate level by that model. The other option for the companies may be farming out the tasks abroad and lowering the cost. However, this seems to be financially attractive, but raising of the flow assurance engineers will be still there. We still have to raise them. And the other trend, increased use of AI and ML, machine learning. The relevance of that, you may not need as many fewer flow assurance, but there is a big question mark there too. Why AI is another tool, it is not a replacement for flow assurance engineers. Also, AI is not free. However, we will need more flow assurance engineers with data science competency. It doesn't work the other way around. You cannot have a data science person and have them work on flow assurance. You need to have flow assurance engineers learning data science and utilizing the data science. With that, I will end. I think we will have the questions and comments later. I would be more than happy to engage in discussion. And that concludes my presentation.
Yeah, it will be later, Professor Sarica. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to introduce Dr. James Holbeach. Dr. James, Dr. James Holbeach is a principal of flow assurance engineering with over 25 years experience in the industry. He is currently a global director with Wood, overseeing the world's largest flow assurance group spanning 15 countries, 5 continents, and 21 offices. James holds a bachelor's degree in science and engineering and a doctorate in multi-phase flow from the University of Melbourne. Based in Perth, Australia, James is a passionate advocate for the value of flow assurance engineering and the value it provides to process and transport industry. Oh, be welcome, James. You can start.
Let me unmute myself first. I'll wait for the slides to come up. There we go. All right. So thank you very much, Raphael, and also thank you very much, Cem. I think we're both singing from exactly the same hymn sheet because I think there's a number of things you touched on there that I'm also going to mention, and there's a lot of alignment, I think, in your points and the issues that we're facing. So my name is James Holbeach. I am based in Australia, but I have a global role. I probably met some of you at the FATC conference in Brazil last year, which was fabulous, and I really, really enjoyed it. So today, I'm going to be talking about a real challenge for our industry, and that is who's training the future engineer and where is the future flow assurance engineer coming from? As much as we might like to think it's true, unfortunately, flow assurance engineers do not grow on trees. So I guess the question I've got, and Cem kind of started talking about that in his presentation, is where do they come from? Do they come from the universities where they're doing undergraduate or postgraduate or postdoctoral studies? Do they come from the operators where they're often enter as graduates into graduate training programs? Or do they come from the engineering companies, the vendors, and the service companies around the world? And I guess from my point of view, they actually come from all of those locations. The pathways to become a flow assurance engineer are quite varied. Universities teach the technical fundamentals and develop graduates, teamwork and interface skills. That is a really critical part of flow assurance. We are an interface discipline. We are a discipline which talks to multiple other stakeholders, and that requires a very special skill set in the ability to be able to communicate often highly technically challenging and complex ideas to a very broad audience. And those kinds of skills are taught at the university level, and especially in postgraduate and postdoctoral studies. You might undertake a postgraduate course at university, which then leads you into an area of research, which then leads you into a flow assurance career at a company. Or you might start off after a graduate engineering degree in chemical engineering at a company as a process engineer, and then at some point during your career transfer to flow assurance. But ultimately, no one effectively graduates as a flow assurance engineer. To Cem's comment before, I do not know of any true flow assurance degrees anywhere in the world. You must get trained on the job. And if you need to be trained on the job, that means that someone needs to deliberately recruit and train flow assurance engineers. Just as, I guess, a bit of background about what I'm going to say next to give some credibility, if you like, we train a lot of graduates. This is our demographic from 2024. I think it's reasonably complete. And as you can see, we had approximately 44 early career engineers with 0 to 4 years of experience in our cohort. And of those, I think we'd hired about 20 graduates in the 23-24 financial year. This year, it's probably been even more than that. And there's some photographs of our graduates. But hiring graduates, and again, Professor Sarica commented on this, is not necessarily easy. It is not straightforward at all. And forgive me, I'm going to go into some commercial issues here, but I'm going to present them in a way which most flow assurance engineers will understand, and that is by trend plots, time-dependent plots. All right, so what we've got here is a plot of profit on the x-axis, profit on the left-hand y-axis, time in years, and I realized afterwards I failed. I didn't put an axis title, but that's years, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years. And then on the right-hand axis, cumulative profit. So if we hire a graduate and they cost us some random unit of measurement, 75 per month, and we sell them at 100 per month, then we make 25 Fs of profit per month. Pretty simple, and you can see that the cumulative rate goes up. And so what I'm trying to do here is, and bear with me, is try to demonstrate one of the key challenges that the industry faces in training and developing new flow assurance engineers. Unfortunately, the pesky little thing is that most people like to get salary rises every year, and so the cost of the engineers goes up over time. And in fact, the cost of junior or early career engineers goes up by a disproportionately higher amount than later career engineers. For the purposes of this, I've just done it a relatively linear increase over the first 6 years of their career. However, fortunately, as they develop and as they grow in their skill sets, we can generally charge our clients more for those same engineers. And so therefore we are able to make more of a profit. However, unfortunately, most graduate flow assurance engineers, we find it very, very difficult to put them onto projects with clients. Most operators and most clients don't want a graduate engineer working on their project. They want a 7 to 10 year plus engineer, and often they will specify that as a requirement. This means that it can be very difficult for us to use graduate engineers on projects, especially at their early phases of their careers. For this reason, the cost of the engineer might remain the same. However, the amount we can effectively charge them out at is vastly reduced because we can't put them on as many projects as we would like. This means that it takes a little bit longer, and in fact, we begin to lose money on those engineers to begin with. Not only that, because they're early career engineers, we have to spend some amount of training on those engineers. Even the engineers that come from postgraduate studies almost certainly need to be trained by senior engineers at relatively high cost, which again adds to the total cost of training and hiring a flow assurance engineering graduate. And so if we look at the curve here, you'll see that if we look at just the monthly profitability of the flow assurance engineer, they only become really profitable after about 2 years. And it takes a further year and 3 quarters before we've actually paid back the debt that we took to hire them in the first place. So effectively, when you hire a graduate flow assurance engineer, you can have up to 3.5 years or more that you have to wait before you turn a profit. And this is a problem for the industry. But it's even worse. There's a point of time which I like to call the 4-year to 5-year itchy feet zone for graduates. Graduates at the 4 to 6 year mark get itchy feet. They're interested in what's coming next. You'll notice here that the profitability per month takes a drop here at 4 years. And the reason it does that is because they have to get a pay rise at 4 years, but generally you wouldn't be promoting them to a senior position at that point. You might be promoting them to a senior position in another couple of years' time. Now, graduates are nothing if not impatient, and they're desperate. They want to become senior engineers. They want to get that new title. And so therefore, for the reasons that Cem mentioned as well before, this becomes the perfect time for other companies to come in and try and recruit that graduate engineer at 4 to 5 years, when all of the education, all of the training money, all of the investment has been paid, and the graduate is in a position where they themselves are going, I want to become a senior. And so therefore, other companies come in like vultures effectively and say, well, I'm going to give you a senior position and I'm going to pay you a bit more money, just like Cem mentioned, and I don't have to pay any training fees. So why would you hire a graduate flow assurance engineer under those circumstances? Well, unfortunately, you wouldn't. And unfortunately, we see in the industry, many of our competitor companies, many of the operator companies do not hire graduate flow assurance engineers at all. And this means that there is not the pull-through that is required for the future stability of the discipline. I will say that it's not all. The NOCs in particular, like Petrobras and also Petronas and a few others, are actually very good. they do hire and they do train a lot of flow assurance engineers. However, they often it's rare for those people to leave those NOCs, or it's not as common. So that means it's left to a few heavy lifters, if you like, in the industry, or opportunistic smaller companies, and there are a number who will go and do the training. My argument is that it really should be everybody's responsibility. It's the responsibility of the operators to ensure that they are providing opportunities for graduates on projects, that the operators are allowing us and also paying for us to put graduates on projects so that we can recover the costs more quickly. It incentivizes us to go out there and do the hard work and train those graduates. As soon as the operators do that, I can guarantee a lot of the other companies will start looking at graduates as well. It's also beholden on the other companies to not look at the short-term solutions. They can't, going in and hiring a graduate engineer at the 4 to 5 year mark after all of the expense has been spent is, as Cem pointed out, a quick fix, but it is not good for the industry. I'd also argue it's not good for the engineer. The engineer may think, wow, I got the fancy title of senior, but they probably got it before they're quite ready for it. And that means that they are probably not going to be as good an engineer in the end because they've been thrown into the deep end a bit too early. Ultimately, it's bad for the industry if that kind of scenario is allowed to continue. So that's probably all I had to talk about. But I think there's a lot of similarities there with what Cem was talking about. The quick solutions are not the best solutions. If we do lose engineers, and the other issue about, by the way, you mentioned something about if we lay flow assurance engineers off, they don't come back. That is absolutely spot on. During the 2015 to 2016 downturn, the number of flow assurance and senior flow assurance engineers, leads and seniors who were lost from the industry was massive. And it's those people who are actually training the next generation of flow assurance engineers. And so we need to keep them on. I am a little bit worried at the moment with the current instability and volatility in the capital markets that there could be another significant downturn in our industry. If the same thing is repeated and we begin to lay off those senior level engineers, it'll just make recovery and hiring of graduates again even more difficult. So I'm going to leave it on that. Again, I'm happy to take questions at the end, and I hopefully I didn't run too much over time.
Thank you very much, James. So now we will start the question sections. So let's see. I will do some question for both Professor Cem and Dr. James. Okay, it's a general question, and then I will see another question here in the chat. Okay, so as oil production around the world presents a very difficult level of technical difficulty, this means that a professional must be properly prepared to meet specific challenges in each environment. For instance, here in Brazil, the deep water offshore operations are particularly very complex. Yeah, for instance, we have CO2 in Pre-Salt. It's very complex. Yeah, we have, of course, the flow assurance term is Brazilian. And this is not, this is, yes. Yeah. This is because things here are very difficult, yeah? And Petrobras is famous because of that, yeah? So, therefore, we probably, here in Brazil, we need more professionals with extra years of study, master doctorate, postdoctorate, yeah, multi-phase flow, PVT, more knowledge. Yeah. In such a context, you both, do you think this can be true, or we could have we have the possibility of and unified formation for the flow assurance engineering. Like we can have this global flow assurance engineering, or like in Brazil, we know that we need professionals with more study, let's say like that. But do you think? Well, I want to know. I want to know your opinion about that. Can we have this global flow assurance engineering, or no, or not? Okay.
When you say global engineering, you mean formal education, formal program on flow assurance? Starting from bachelor's level and then going up. I think that is not going to be practical. The reason is that we are specialized, and the number of flow assurance engineering graduates needed will not be, I mean, if you open up a program, it needs to be sustainable for a university. If I tell University of Tulsa administration that, okay, we are going to open up a program on flow assurance engineering, I don't think they will immediately go and look at the market, who's going to hire them, and how many of them are needed. And I think flow assurance will be still at the graduate level, no matter where they come from. Chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, they have the basis, fundamentals on the flow assurance, and they can be trained. I don't think that will change in the short term and in the long term, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, I agree with Cem. I think one thing about flow assurance is it's actually, I might be a bit controversial here, but it's not actually a discipline by itself. It's not actually a specialization by itself. It's actually a collection of specializations.
That's true.
Yeah. You have specialized people in hydrates. You have specialized people in wax and asphaltenes, in multi-phase flow, in single-phase flow, in complex chemical distribution system, transients, etc. And each one of those areas can be an entire career by itself. And in each different location, be it in ultra deep water Brazil or tropical deep water gas condensates in Australia, or Arctic waters in the North Sea and offshore Canada, each one of those specializations plays a different role. And so therefore, you have to adapt to each location and each particular field as required. That said, the absolute best flow assurance engineers that we have, and the best flow assurance engineers that I've worked with around the world, are the ones who are mobile, are the ones who have gone and worked in different fields. They haven't just worked on black oil projects in ultra deep water or deep water. They've worked on those projects and gas condensate projects, and they get a different set of eyes and a different view of the different problems that you've got. So, for example, you probably don't have marine growth problems in 2,000 meters of water depth, but you do have marine growth problems in shallow tropical waters. And having to understand what the difference is for that on the thermal performance of pipelines, for example, is something that's unique, and you only find out if you've been working in that industry. So, yeah, I agree with Cem. I don't think you can have just a generic flow assurance engineer. They're always going to be specialized in one part of the world or another, or perhaps a couple. But that's the best type.
Okay. Thank you very much, both. We have one question here for Carlos Nascimento, and then some comments from João Carneiro and also from Carlos Nascimento. Carlos Nascimento asks Cem Sarica, well explained. You mentioned that it's necessary for a flow assurance engineering to have knowledge on data science. Have the university adapted the curriculums to have data science disciplines directly?
Let-
Asking about TOSA, yeah.
Thank you, Carlos, for the question. Every university is offering data science related courses and data science programs. However, in petroleum engineering and in mechanical engineering, we are having our students take some of the courses, but not going away from the domain knowledge. Okay, we are incorporating some additional courses in curriculum in data science. However, the domain knowledge in every discipline is staying the same. That's what I was trying to emphasize. We tried here to collaborate with computer science people they have a lot of data science knowledge on a research project, had a PhD student with computer science background. It did not really work really well. However, we did the reverse. We had petroleum engineering student with data science knowledge that worked really well. I'm not just talking in an abstract manner. We tried both ways, and the best way to incorporate data science, you start out with a domain knowledge person, and then tool them with data science, and then you get a lot better results.
Okay, Professor. Thank you very much. I have here one comment of João Carneiro on James' talk about about the Norway and Brazil flow assurance engineers. The Brazil, and he put like that, Norway model for research funding creates certainly a good system. However, on general level, Brazil faces a more shortage of engineering students and engineers in the market. I don't know, maybe James want to comment on that to extend?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I don't know the Brazilian university and graduate market all that well, although João did send through some fascinating data prior to this event, looking at the rise of online courses and the decline in traditional university and academic studies in the sense, and I can see that being a genuine problem. And if there's any graduates or undergraduates on the call right now, don't do an online course because you're not going to get hired by our company. You need to have those interface and those interpersonal skills that come from the more traditional courses, at least for the moment, unless they can fix them. But I guess if there is a massive shortage of engineers in the market in Brazil, as there appears to be, then I think there was another question there about how the SPE could perhaps assist with this. The reality of I'll use the word zeitgeist. I appreciate that probably won't translate all that well, but the reality of the current world view of oil and gas is not going to change anytime soon. No matter how much you disagree with it, that is what it is. And most graduates do not want to have to go and tell their friends that they've gone and joined oil and gas, because that looks bad for them. But the reality is that actually a lot of the skills that we do in flow assurance are completely transferable to a lot of other new emerging areas, which are associated with the greener technologies and greener areas like carbon dioxide transport, like transient analysis of complex electrical distribution systems in solar farms and wind farms and batteries and green hydrogen production. I mean, we're beginning to get involved in a lot of these things because the only people who really understand how these complex transient processes work is engineers who do that on a day-to-day basis, and that is flow assurance engineers. So marketing it in that way to the graduates to try and get them to join the universities, undertake those chemical engineering, petroleum engineering, mechanical engineering courses where most of our flow assurance engineers come from, is going to be the way in which you improve your graduate intake and therefore graduate cohorts.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. James. Well, the last comment here is a question for, I believe it's for Professor Cem Sarica, is about the PhD and master's degree programs in US. It's just a curiosity. In US, you don't have a direct PhD program going to PhD without passing to master. You can go. This one I believe I know. You can do the PhD without a master, or I don't know. This is the question.
Yeah, you can. I mean, in the University of Tulsa, you can start the PhD program. We have several PhDs. They did not produce master thesis, but they produce PhD dissertation. My personal view is, for me, it is a bit risky. I like to see a person with the ability to do research, with independent thinking. And the master's program is a training ground. If the person passes and does a really good work on master's, probably he or she will be doing a good PhD, and then I continue with that person. I do not take in anyone for the PhD program immediately. I ask them to go through the MS program.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Cem, I went straight through. I didn't do my master's.
I know, but since the funding is so precious, so limited, for me, it is a business decision. I don't want to take too much of a risk.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think in Australia we have you have to get good enough marks in your final year of undergraduate. You need to get honours, and then you do what's called it's not a master's, but essentially it's a small dissertation at the end of your first year, which you need to pass before you can continue.
That's a good question, George. I appreciate it, but the structure is there, but it is up to the advisors what to do here. We are given the flexibility to work with the students either way that we want.
Okay, thank you very much. George Balino, that did this question, is answering another one. Considering the new energy policy in the US, what is the position of the offshore community with respect to CO2? I don't know if this is for today, but it's for George Balino.
Yeah, I think it is going to be interesting. Okay, it is going to be interesting to see. That's what I was alluding to early on. We have pendulum swings from one government to the other. Policies change significantly. However, our industry is not going to be able to respond very quickly. We need a consistency in government policies going forward without any political, of course, politics is in play always, but companies like these steady policies, and right now, previous government wanted to do a lot of CO2 and capture, store, and we don't know right now if that will continue on, and will the supports will continue on. It is to be seen. But with CO2, there is another side of it. CO2 can be also used for enhanced oil recovery purposes. I think to produce more oil, you need the enhanced oil recovery techniques, and CO2 injection is one of them. Probably CO2 will still be on the plate.
So I'll just be very quick here, Raphael, just to answer that as well. As much as I love the US and I spend a lot of time there, it is not the only country in the world. And there is a hell of a lot. There's a hell of a lot happening in other locations. Canada's new government is quite proactive in this space. Japan, South Korea have made definitive and legislated goals in terms of CO2 export and CO2 reduction through CCS. And Europe, and in particular Norway and the North Sea, while things have been put on pause at the moment, we still see a fair bit of life there. So the foibles of an American president are not necessarily going to affect everything around the world, I wouldn't say.
Okay.
And by the way, the Middle East is going gangbusters in that space.
Okay. Yes. So that's it. Okay. Also, we are just in time. So I thank you very much for today. It was a pleasure to have both of you here in the first event in noon. Yeah, this is the first one we are performing. So now I call Maria again, so he will have some information. Thank you very much again, James and Cem.
Thank you, Raphael.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I make my words like Rafael's words. So on the behalf of the SP Brazil Flow Assurance Technical Committee, I'd like to thank you both, like Professor Sarica and Dr. James, for accepting the invitation today. I know it's midnight in Australia, back there in Australia, and anyways, Dr. James accepted to be here with us. Great discussions today, so thank you so much. I think we had great discussions on how we are gonna develop the next generation of flow assurance engineers. So thank you so much, and see you all next time on our next events. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Nicholas.
Ciao.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.